Hello, it's Dr. Busen here, and I'm going to narrate a presentation on musical instruments in jazz. And I've got a little question for you. Is there such a thing as a jazz musical instrument? I'm sorry, I didn't hear your answer. What was that? Anyway, if you answered no, you would be correct. And so why is that? Well, really all instruments can potentially be played in a jazz style. And expression and style of any instrument depends on who's playing it. So if you get a jazz musician playing harmonica, it's going to be jazz harmonica. If you get a jazz musician playing let's say a harp, a stringed harp, well, then it's a jazz harp. Okay, but still, another question, can you imagine jazz without a saxophone or a trumpet? So that's where the tradition comes in. Early jazz players, they chose instruments that met their expressive needs. And then over time, as the style evolved, a specific group of instruments proved to work best, and they became part of the jazz tradition. So we're going to look at the families. Here we have the Woodwind family. And if you look from left to right, you've got the piccolo, the flute, and we have all these different wind instruments that are kind of organized in size there. Naming some of them piccolos, flutes, oboes, English horns, clarinets, bassoons, and saxophones. The different pitches are produced by opening and covering holes along the instrument. Okay, so which ones are really used heavily in jazz? Well, the saxophone family, and we want to include the flute as well. Looking at the brass family, brass instruments include trumpets and trombones for jazz. They're part of the big band. Other possibilities are French horns and tubas. Sound is produced by forcing air through the mouthpiece of the instrument. Moving ahead, with the exception of the trombone, pitches are altered by pressing or releasing valves. The trombone, there is such a thing as a valve trombone, but typically it's a slide that lengthens and lowers the pitch or shortens and raises the pitch. All brass players also tighten or relax their lips to change pitch. Okay, looking at the string family, got the guitar, the banjo, the viola, the violin. There's the harp. There's a thing called a sitar in there, lute, mandolin, cello, double bass. Certain ones are used in jazz and certain ones are not. Yeah, my comic here says, whoever told you this was a travel cello was lying. Cute, huh? Okay, so for jazz, well, actually, just speaking in general, strings are put into vibration by bowing or plucking. Jazz are usually plucked. Common instruments in early jazz are the upright bass and the banjo. Electric guitar soon replaced the banjo in importance, and that was because it could be heard with a big band. So the amount of volume is really important there. The percussion family, that's the biggest one. The percussion family consists of the most instruments. Some of the standard instruments include the bass drum, snare drum. These other ones, timpani, bells, cymbals, and triangle, they could put those into a jazz group, but they're more frequently used in the orchestra. Sound is produced by striking some part of the instrument with a mallet, stick, or the hands. Not all percussion instruments can produce multiple pitches. In most cases, the pitch of the instrument is dependent on the size of the instrument. That kind of makes sense. So looking at the chart there, the drum set in the upper left corner, that is the big one for jazz. Then we get into Latin jazz. We have congas, timbali, bongos, those ones right below. How is the pitch determined on a musical instrument? This is kind of a scientific explanation, what we call the acoustics of music. The size of the instrument is a factor in determining pitch on an instrument. The larger and longer an instrument is, the lower the pitch. The smaller and shorter an instrument is, the higher the pitch. You can think of a string instrument. If you shorten the string, the pitch will be higher. Think of a drum. Smaller drums have a higher pitched sound than bigger drums. One of the easiest ways to illustrate this is with the slide trombone. Now for this class you don't have to know how to read music, but we're going to make reference to it here in this little diagram. Here we have pitches shown on the musical staff, and the higher the note is on the staff, the higher the pitch will be. Okay, notice how the trombone slide gets longer as the note gets lower. Okay, so like the very first one, the slide is kind of in pretty far, whereas as we move through these, each note gets lower, the slide is taken out further, and the pitch gets lower. I wonder if do we have any trombone players in the class? Okay, moving on to music ensembles. The Dixieland Jazz Band, that's kind of the first traditional ensemble. So we have what's called the front line or melody instruments. That consists of clarinet, cornet, and trombone. Okay, those are the melody instruments, and they're referred to as the front line. The other part of the Dixieland Band is the rhythm section. It is made up of banjo, tuba, and some kind of drum. Later they may have used a guitar or a piano or a string bass in place of the tuba. Those 6 instruments right there are really common in the early Dixieland Band because those bands were processional. They marched down the street. And so the upright bass and the piano, those aren't instruments you can easily carry down the street, but these could be carried down in a processional fashion. Okay, moving to the most important ensemble, the big band. Oh, I am asking you to memorize this. So, yeah, again, you can pause the video at any time and write these down if you're wanting to take notes. Okay, and then this one I'll expect you to memorize as well, the Jazz Big Band. So, the Jazz Big Band is made up of 4 sections. Trumpet section, trombone section, saxophone section, and rhythm section. Each section is made up of 4 players. And this is the way they're referred to in the band, and I'm asking you on a test to list them. The trumpet section is trumpet 1, trumpet 2, trumpet 3, trumpet 4. Might sound a little tedious, but that is the way you'll be expected to memorize it, and that's where they are referred to within the band. The saxophone is a little different. There's alto sax 1, alto sax 2, tenor sax 1, and tenor sax 2. And then you don't have to do anything but name the rhythm section, string, bass, piano, drums, and guitar. Yes, so please learn that. It'll be worth a lot of points on the midterm. And there's some activities that you'll be working this information on. The big band setup, this kind of speaks to the tradition of the numbering of the instruments. If you look at the chart there, it shows the trumpet 1 is in the back row, and it is the second from the left end, okay? And then the second trumpet is on the left end, the third trumpet is second in from the right, fourth trumpet on the right. Then you look into the trombones, first trombone, same way as the trumpets. See how that's organized? And then when we look at the saxophones, we have alto sax 1, that's kind of in the middle there, and then alto sax 2 directly to the left of that, and then tenor sax 1 is on the far left, tenor sax 2 is second from the right end. The B is a baritone sax. That's a bit of a luxury. That's not always going to be present in a big band. That would be a 5 saxophone section. And there's the piano, guitar, and we have the drum set behind that and the bass back behind that. And then the photograph, that actually reflects the exact same setup. The piano's not in the picture, however. Okay? Moving on, Latin jazz bands. Latin jazz involves expanding the percussion instruments of the big band. So you're going to have some hand drums, what we call congas, which are in this picture, and timbales. Also in the picture, kind of in the middle there, is the 2 drums of the timbales. Often less brass and wind are utilized in favor of drums and handheld percussion. So it's a little bit of a priority there. Yes, you're going to definitely want to have that percussion. And that's it. Oh, flute. Flute is another popular Latin instrument in the Latin jazz tradition. And that's it for today. Thank you. Email me if you have any questions.